Yeah.
Yeah.
The parenting style, I feel like before our generation, like now the parenting styles are like attachment parenting and listening to your child and, like RIE parenting and big emphasis on empathy. But, before it was like, do what I say and no talking back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of kids lost their voice and maybe they acted out in school because they weren't listened to it. I mean,
good point. Good point. What do the rest of you think? What about violence on television and some of the things? How's the voice used on TV? Think of some examples of ways that the voice is used in positive or negative ways.
What comes to my mind is sarcasm.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
any particular show or any particular characters that you can think of?
It's been a long time since I've watched television, but like...
I know, so, I don't either, but again...
But I was thinking of like The Simpsons and like Seinfeld. I mean, they're funny, but it's like nothing is... Everything's a little like, condescending or something.
Sarcastic, yeah. Anything else that you want to talk about using words, using the voice?
I mean, maybe we're almost, because TV is a huge deal in like media and whatnot, we're looking at celebrities and we're hearing their voice, but then we don't see our voices as worthy as this person on the platform. We want, like, a lot of people want to be just like her or just like him. And
want to be a Michael Jackson or whoever the current hero or whatever is.
So then how could they have their own voice when they're just following
somebody else's
voice?
Yep. And I think in terms of the metaphysical world now, we don't really think of what the voice is, and that it has a vibration, and that the tone of your voice, the volume of your voice, the actual words, the vibrations of the words, all of these sound waves affect you. Yes? In positive. What were you thinking, Nisha?
Well, I lived in French-speaking Quebec for a period of time, and before I really understood French, the sound was so beautiful. Like, I loved to listen to French. It has this like melody, but now that I actually understand what the words mean, that it's information, I can't just hear it for the heart. Like, I don't hear the melody anymore. But in that vein, I had a boyfriend who, for him, English was a second language, and it was very difficult because he would put emphasis on particular words in sentences that it wasn't right. I mean, it was because it was following French inflection, but it was not the same as English, and it was really difficult for me. I mean, it actually put me on edge. I mean, it wasn't him specific. I mean, it was just... There were other things that put me on edge too.
Someone's voice. Now, in this case, it's a language or a language difference. But has someone's quality of their voice set you on edge? I've certainly heard that just someone's and they can't help it, of course. But sounds affect us differently. Some of them are.
Oh, if someone has a crappy laugh. Oh, it's terrible.
Exactly. And just
you have a great laugh.
Well, at least they're laughing.
Just to bring it around to more the vibration discussion is, are you familiar with Doreen Virtue's book, Angel Words? Have you heard of that one? Have you looked at that one? She and her son actually worked together on producing this book, and what they did was record words and phrases that you could actually see the frequency, how high it was, and the higher it was, the more positive, as opposed to, down here. And
I wonder if that's specific to English or if that would be universal. That would be interesting.
Yeah, well, it's like the Masaru Emoto's work where he photographed, when you say over sound waves on water, for example, and you say, "Oh, I hate you," or "This is a terrible day," then those molecules actually just glob up. But if you say things like, "Oh, it's beautiful," "You're lovely," or "I love what you're wearing today," or, anything positive, those water crystals actually make crystalline structures like stars, snowflakes, and so forth. Well, can you imagine what happens to your body and to you physically on a cellular level if you use words that are positive as opposed to negative?
I wonder if the unspoken words also affect you.
That's an interesting question. I would not know the answer to that question. But
You mean like when you're in a room with someone and like you're like keeping yourself from saying something really negative out loud, but you're thinking you're such an whatever?
yeah,
Is that what you mean?
I heard that it's like if your first thought is something negative and then your second thought is like sort of like, oh, I shouldn't have thought that, then it was your second thought that really had the meaning than the first.
Yeah.
Because it shows that
That's
you're
good.
like actually care and like
Yeah. But the sounds of our voices, the tones of our voices, the volume of voices, the meaning behind the words that we say, all have positive and negative impacts on people. Our voices can be healing or they can be wounding, and they can be like barbs. How many of you, we just did the heart chakra, how many of you people have felt actually like someone shot an arrow right at you by the words that they used?
Yeah.